I can't really say I'm surprised, but I don't know, kind of, I guess. Biden becomes first president to skip major 9/11 ceremonies and mark anniversary in Alaska 4,300 miles away instead. VP Kamala Harris attends Ground Zero in New York City with Rudy Giuliani and Ron DeSantis. It's amazing. I do not see how Joe Biden wins in 2024. I can't see him running. This is insane. Joe Biden today, 9/11, never forget. Our hearts go out to all the people who lost their lives, who were negatively affected, is a horrifying day in American history. And there's a lot that people think about it. For instance, 9/11 is trending, Never Forget is trending, and World Trade Center 7 is trending. A lot of people are very upset, obviously. Joe Biden, the president of the United States, skipped the 9/11 event. He went to Alaska instead. Kamala Harris went to New York for him. How does someone who cares so little about this country expect to win? And I have to wonder, maybe the intention is that he's not going to. They don't think he's going to. And maybe the issue is Kamala Harris is going to take over very soon. Because we just saw this news in the past week. This is from a day ago. Kamala Harris says she's prepared to serve as president if necessary. Vice President dismisses opponents' attacks that president is too old to seek out a second term and says he's going to be fine. Obviously not. The New York Post reports Biden spends 9/11 far from terrorist attack sites with Alaska trip as Harris visits Ground Zero instead. They say President Biden will spend September 11th far from the sites of the terror attacks that claimed the lives of 2,996 Americans 22 years ago, opting instead to send his vice president to the ceremony at Ground Zero on Monday. Vice President Kamala Harris flew Air Force Two to New York City to honor the victims of the 2001 attacks at the National September 11th Memorial Plaza, while Biden plans to commemorate it at a military base in Anchorage, Alaska. I want to point this out, too. What everyone needs to understand about what this election will be. 22 years ago. This means there are many voters entering the voting bloc who were born after 9/11. I mean, that happened obviously a few years ago, but now with 22 years, we're going to be looking at a decent amount of young people who were born after that happened and don't know anything about it. Well, let's be real. To those that were only a few years old at the time, you might be 25, 26, 27, 28. I mean, let's be real. If you're 30, that's really interesting. You're 8 years old when this happens. A little bit more cognizant of what it could mean and what's happening, but probably not a whole lot. If you are 7 or younger, did any of this really matter to you? I mean, I'm sure it does to a certain degree, but I don't think it's as profound as those of us who were teenagers or older. I think I was 14, so it was fairly impactful. I already had a job working for my family's business and watched this happen on TV. But that's something to consider, what that could mean, because the world changed that day. And if you were someone who experienced public life, flying on airplanes, traveling around, riding on trains, you understood the change that happened after it happened. Biden, 80, left Vietnam Monday morning, but will not make it to the sites where the hijackers flew planes in New York's World Trade Center, the Pentagon in D.C., or the site where Flight 93 crashed. The president will instead deliver remarks to service members, first responders, and their families at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, which is typically used as a refueling stop for Air Force One on return journeys. I'm going to go right into it. They don't care. And maybe that's the point. Or maybe it's not the point. But either way, the social structures that we expect are eroding. Why is Joe Biden stopping at this base? Well, I think it's obvious. It's just a refueling stop. And they said, might as well say something, I guess. Now, some may say, yeah, but he was in Vietnam. What was he supposed to do? Not plan a trip that meant he could not be at the 9/11 memorial? They don't care. They don't care with everything happening around us. And I am not surprised they don't care. Biden earlier in the day visited the John Sidney McCain III Memorial in Hanoi to honor the late U.S. Senator. His staff also placed a 9/11 memorial installation on the north portico of the executive mansion early Monday, but no ceremony is scheduled for the president as he returns to D.C. later this evening. I say unacceptable. Unacceptable. I'm sorry, man. Look, I know everybody's on Twitter. They're all fighting, and you got a lot of people tweeting about World Trade Center 7. We all know about World Trade Center 7, don't we? This is about unity, the United States, and us coming together to mourn those who died. Whatever your view on 9/11 is, we learned recently, Vivek Ramaswamy brought this up, that Saudis were, there were some Saudi individuals involved, and the information actually wasn't released until recently. So I'll put it this way. On this day of mourning and remembrance, it's important to realize that for better or for worse, you do not have the truth about 9/11. And I'm talking to literally everyone. The corporate mainstream establishment will say that the truth is as described, the NIST report, all of that. The conspiracy theorists will say a whole lot about George W. Bush and the Project for a New American Century. And I say to all of you, I think certainly some people may be more right than others, but you don't have the truth, and it's for better or for worse. But let me explain. It would be ignorant, naive, if you believed the government came out, the United States, and said, here's exactly how we were attacked, how they bypassed our security and hit the Pentagon. Yeah. So a lot of people don't like the story. I mean, there's the few frames that were released thanks to Judicial Watch showing the striking of the Pentagon. Many say it clear. I don't think it shows a plane. I'm not saying no plane hit I'm not saying anything like that. I'm saying I look at this video and I'm like, I can't see anything, dude. I don't know what you're talking about. But there are many people who think it's a conspiracy and it's an inside job or whatever. And my answer is just the Pentagon got hit. There's no way the DOD, the U.S. government, comes out and says, hello, world, here's how we got attacked successfully. Never going to happen. We deal with security here at Timcast, and there's a lot of people like, what happened with this? And I'm like, we're never going to say, because we're not going to expose how people committed crimes against us because we don't want to expose security. So it would be stupid and insane to think that the government was going to just tell you exactly how it all went down. But that doesn't mean it was a grand conspiracy. Sorry, guys. You know, a lot of people talk about World Trade Center 7, and the reason is the video shows it crumple in the center and then fall straight down. And most people don't even know that if you ask them, 3 buildings collapsed on 9/11. World Trade Centers 1, 2, and 7. Now, 7's fall is strange because it wasn't hit by a plane. And the official report is that fires started due to falling debris. And then I think it was like propane gas tanks started bursting and it destroyed a lot of the support columns, resulting in a collapse, which is shocking. It's never happened before. But a lot of people have very legitimate questions about this. But it is what it is. I'm only saying this. I'm not here to entertain any theory or idea other than no one knows the truth, because it would be insane to think the government's going to tell you how we got attacked. I'll just put it at that. But let's carry on with the politics of the space. It's interesting that just the other day, we learned Kamala Harris say that she's preparing to serve as president, and now she's the one at the 9/11 memorial. Could it be that they know Joe Biden is not long for this position, and thus they need to put Kamala Harris in prominent situations so she becomes more recognizable? I don't think it'll work, but here's the story. Kamala Harris on Sunday declared herself ready to assume the presidency if it ever behooved her to do so. But she also made it a point to dismiss opponents' political attacks that Joe Biden is too old to take a second term. Asked on CBS's Face the Nation whether she was prepared to serve as commander-in-chief in case Biden became unable to carry out his duties, Harris said, yes, I am, if necessary. But Joe Biden is going to be fine. And let me tell you something. I work with Joe Biden every day. No, I completely disagree. There's a big story right now where apparently Joe Biden starts rambling about dog-faced pony soldiers. And they're like, all right, slow down there, old man. And they just shut him down. He may not be having any Mitch McConnell moments, but spare me, dude. Nobody thinks Joe Biden is I say nobody, I mean most people. Most people reject the idea that he can keep doing this job. Most Democrats want someone younger. So yeah, no, not interested. Harris, who would become the first woman to serve as U.S. president if Biden could not complete an elected term, told Face the Nation host Margaret Brennan that it would not be a novel experience for her to make history in such a fashion. She alluded to how she was the first woman elected as district attorney of San Francisco and as attorney general of California. Let's just stop and reflect on how things are going over in California right now. She may be the first woman, but I'm not sure the state of California is something she wants to brag about. As a U.S. Senator for California, I represent 1 in 8 Americans before becoming the country's first ever female vice president. Listen, this is not new. There's nothing new about that. Harris's defense of her qualifications and of Biden's vitality come as Republicans attack the incumbent 80-year-old Democratic president's age. To be fair, Donald Trump is also nearing his 80s. So yeah, they're all old. But many people are wondering who is going to be the president. 2024. Will Trump win? Will Biden win? If it is Biden running, is it going to be Kamala as VP? And does it really even make sense? Well, my friends, we have this from Timcast.com. Newsom denies speculation he will enter 2024 race, insists Harris is Biden's successor. The California governor said he and the vice president had an extraordinarily close working relationship. Yeah. California Governor Gavin Newsom insisted Vice President Kamala Harris would succeed President Joe Biden as the Democratic frontrunner in the 2024 presidential election should the president end or be unable to continue. The California governor also denied any speculation he may enter the 2024 presidential race. How do you get Kamala Harris out of the way? Newsom's better than Harris. Not by a whole lot. California ain't doing all too well. But if we're talking about playing politics and looking at polls and all that, I don't see Kamala Harris as being, it's not a possibility. No one's going to vote for her. It's bad enough you got Joe Biden. But I think most people who voted Biden-Harris were just voting against Trump. This time around, I think Trump has improved quite a bit. And this suggests that they're going to need Gavin Newsom. Kamala Harris ain't going to pull it off. Take a look at this from 538. Let's grab the latest polls. And right now, it looks neck and neck. We've got polls ending September 5th. And we can see that Trump wins 1, Biden wins 1, Trump wins 1. Biden is losing 2-3. In 3 out of the 5 polls, Trump is ahead and by a lot. 4 points, 6 points, 5 points. When Biden does do well in the polls, he's only up by 2 points. We go back to and these are premise. This is a change research and then 4 polls from premise. We then have some September 4th, Redfield and Wilton Strategies and Morning Consult. Redfield, both polls have Trump up, winning by 1.2 points. Morning Consult, with more voters, has Biden winning by 5 and 3 points. But when we go back to August 31st, Biden loses to everybody. He loses to Trump. He ties with DeSantis. He loses to Christie. He beats Ramaswamy. I don't believe that. He loses to Scott, Pence, Haley, and Trump in the rest of these polls. I think you take a look at the data right now, and it is fair, especially when you look at CNN. Joe Biden is not favored to win. Now, I don't know what this means for Kamala Harris. I mean, it's entirely possible that these polls are going to be meaningless. Joe Biden will be forced to bow out. Kamala Harris will take a lead role in a lot of efforts like we're already seeing now with 9/11. Joe Biden's in the background doing what basically a VP does, traveling and giving speeches while the president goes to the 9/11 memorial to address the nation. But they got Kamala Harris doing it right after she said, I am ready to take this job. Could Joe Biden be on the way out? Perhaps, but here's predict it. I find this one very, very funny. I don't know, man. The prediction markets have Donald Trump at 31 cents to Joe Biden's 43 cents. You then got Ron DeSantis with 10 cents, Gavin Newsom with 7, Vivek Ramaswamy with 6, and Kamala Harris with 4. Here's what's fascinating. The prediction market thinks Biden's going to win. I think that's crazy. Kamala Harris is losing to Vivek, Newsom, and DeSantis. So if Joe Biden bows out, the prediction markets will have 4 different Republicans as the front runner. Not even the vice president herself. Now, I love this one from CNN Politics. Trump is explaining exactly how wild and extreme his second term would be. Oh, how wild and extreme it will be. I'm here for it, baby. We sold a bunch of those revenge shirts. If you haven't seen it, go to timcast.com, click store. And you know what, actually, I'll just do this. I will go there and show you because we sold a whole bunch of these ones. The Trump revenge image. And I want to make sure it's very, very clear for all of you. These are all the revenge stickers and shirts and sweaters. The image is free to use. We do not own the rights to it. It is art imitating the Obama Hope poster. We posted the file on Twitter. I said, by all means, anyone can use it for anything they want. We are not doing this because we want to profit. We just want to make it easily available because we think the image is hilarious. But, yes, Trump revenge. CNN. Donald Trump is conjuring his most foreboding vision yet of a possible second term, telling supporters in language resonant of the run-up to the January 6th mob attack on the U.S. Capitol that they need to fight like hell or they will lose their country. I think it's really funny that he said that, that they wrote that, because they're not calling it an insurrection anymore. The rhetorical escalation from the 4 times indicted ex-president came at a rally in South Dakota on Friday night where he accused his possible 2024 opponent, Joe Biden, of ordering his indictment on 91 charges across 4 criminal cases. I don't think there's ever been a darkness around our nation like there is now, Trump said in a dystopian speech in which he accused Democrats of allowing an invasion of migrants over the southern border ahead of trying to restart COVID hysteria. Let's fact check, baby. Why, here's the New York Times. All right, I got a New York Times story right here. It says, Biden's response to Trump's indictment. 4 ways to say no comment. Okay, let's see if we do a search. And he also, what's this say? Let's read the first paragraph. When the Biden Justice Department, what the Biden Justice Department will do is let the Department of Justice be the Department of Justice, Mr. Biden said. Let them make the judgments of who should be prosecuted. They are not my lawyers. They are not my personal lawyers. But he does have opinions. I am reading you. I want to make sure this is clear. Verbatim from the New York Times. In the past, Mr. Biden privately told his close circle of advisors that Mr. Trump posed a threat to democracy and should be prosecuted for his role in the events of January 6th, according to 2 people familiar with his comments. He also told confidants that he wanted AG Merrick Garland to stop acting like a ponderous judge and take decisive action. That is to say, they may be dancing around it a little bit, but they are explicitly telling us. Biden said Trump must be prosecuted. Merrick Garland, be more decisive. You know what that means when your boss tells you that. Merrick Garland is effectively, I'll be fair, effectively instructed to indict Donald Trump. Now I know many of the charges Trump faces are not federal ones, but he's got the classified documents, federal, and there's there are I think some of the charges at the federal level are over January 6th. And then you have Georgia, which is very egregious. You know, I'll tell you what's worrying. That in Georgia, the grand jury voted to indict Loeffler, Perdue, and Graham, 3 Republican senators. That's crazy. That's really crazy. Now, I don't know. I do think Loeffler lost. It's been a while since I tracked who is representing out of Georgia because I know Warnock won. But Lindsey Graham, you want to put Republican senators in prison? They tried. The DA just hasn't made any moves yet. So many people are saying that the DA is not bringing charges. Well, yet to bring charges. Let's play this video. Benny Johnson tweeted this. Let's play this video.
That G7 conversation was tied to your predecessor, who is about to launch another campaign. So how do you reassure them if that is the reason for their questioning, that the former president will not return, or that his political movement, which is still very strong, will not once again take power in the United States?
Well, we just have to demonstrate that he will not take power by, if he does run, making sure he, under legitimate efforts of our Constitution, does not become the next president again.
He didn't say we're going to win an election. Joe Biden said we'll use legitimate efforts of the Constitution to make sure he does not take power. What does that mean? We have to demonstrate he will not take power if he does run. They're saying if Trump wins, they will do everything in their power to stop him from becoming president, even if he's elected. Consider what that means. They're indicting Trump over his efforts to overturn the election or whatever, and are expressing their intent to do quite literally the exact same thing. They're trying to file to get him taken off the ballot. Several states have already done so. Joe Biden saying this, there is clear evidence of an effort by the sitting president to subvert the Constitution and this country. That's what he said, under the legitimate efforts of the Constitution, because he knows what he's saying defies it. Adding that caveat changes nothing. And this is where we are. I'm not sure Joe Biden will be president, but what's it going to be? Kamala Harris? Things are getting interesting, to say the least, but it is a curse, they say. May you live in interesting times is not intended to be a nice thing to say, but my friends, it's always interesting times. You know, we may have been born in this golden age, most of us, not all of us, where we had the 90s, and there was conflict and there was crisis, but it was a lot more chill because the Soviet Union was collapsing, had collapsed. But for a lot of people, our parents, they grew up during the Cold War, the fear of nuclear bombs dropping, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Come on. The world is always in some kind of crisis. There's always some kind of conflict. The question is, what will be ours, our great challenge? So, of course, it's happening because there's always something happening. You know, I don't know how it plays out. I can only tell you that Joe Biden seems to be stepping back, and him not going to the 9/11 memorial was, you know, surprising and unsurprising at the same time. We'll see. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.